This episode of Two Guys on Mobile is brought to you by Pontiflex App Leads. Go to www.appleads.com. And by Macadamian, helping companies transform ideas into compelling, market-ready products customers love. You can find them at macadamian.com. And by Appcelerator. Build cross-platform mobile applications in a cinch. Go to appcelerator.com. It's time for Two Guys on Mobile. We're recording this live between Jeff and myself, and it is Sunday, August, what is it, 28th? Man, the summer has flown by. I can't believe it's been a couple of weeks since we did this, but we're into episode number 25. We should be celebrating something, Jeff. I don't know what 25 means in some nation, but have a drink somewhere on us for hitting number 25. It was a struggle to get to 24 to 25, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is like silver anniversary or something of our podcast. Is that right?
Silver anniversary. That's right. It means that we're 1 foot in the grave, doesn't it? When you hit your silver anniversary, unless you were married when you were 15.
Yeah.
My name is Rob Woodbridge. I'm obviously from untether.tv, and you can find me at Rob Woodbridge on Twitter. And I'm with Mr. Jeff Bacon, as always, in his temporary home somewhere in the outskirts of the city of Ottawa. Jeff Bacon can be found at thesuavehog.com, right?
No, at bacononthego.com.
Bacon on the go, and at the Suave Hog on the Twitter sphere. It's all this like food bacon reference on a Sunday morning. I'm not good at this, man. I shouldn't be doing this. Let's just end this right now. 25 is done. Jeff, thanks. It has been a couple of weeks since we got together, and what we were doing, I think in the last one is that we opened it up by saying, "Oh, these dog days of summer, it's so boring. There's nothing inspiring. Nothing happens in the technology world." And then what? We go away for a couple of weeks, and it's like, hey, 2 bombshells last week, and a bunch of other smaller announcements, smaller in scope, but for our industry are pretty significant. So, who says that the summers are dead? Especially the last 2 weeks of August have been pretty active, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. It's been quite the last couple of weeks of news to digest.
Well, we've got 3 stories that we're going to talk about. Today, we are going to talk about HP and the TouchPad fiasco, or phenomenon, whatever you want to call it. We're going to talk about Foursquare and Facebook and the battle that's going on there, and who won and who really lost in that battle. And we're going to talk about RIM and their BlackBerry Messenger music subscription service. And those are the 3 stories we're going to talk about. But first, I really want to bring attention to one of our sponsors. Our first one today. We got 3, we love that. This is a great company called Macadamian. They're based here in Ottawa. We love the fact that they sponsor. These guys actually help companies transform ideas into really compelling, market-ready products customers love. And it's not just a slogan. I've used them before when I needed to build a product for one of my previous companies, and they were on time, on budget, very professional. I knew I could rely on them. I've had a long-term relationship with these guys over 10 years. I've known them and love them. And we're really, really, really pleased that they have decided to come on and sponsor not just this podcast, but a lot of what I'm doing with Untether. And we're also working together with Fred Boulanger, who's the CEO of that company and the founder, on Mobile Monday Ottawa. And this is a great initiative. And I really appreciate the fact that they've put their head out and sponsored untether.tv and Two Guys on Mobile. So thanks to Macadamian. Go to macadamian.com and see what they can do for you to help you get your product out into the world faster, cheaper, better, stronger. Macadamian.com. HP. Start there. I mean, this news has already been battered around, and I think that there's a little bit of flip-flopping going on with HP. Weird announcement, I would say, that they were getting out of the business of PCs completely. I think it's probably a logical step, but the way they did it, I don't know about you, but if you're trying to sell that unit, you kind of don't announce that you're getting out of the business before you sell it. I think that devalues the business. Like, no, we're getting out of it. Who wants it? Right? It's not profitable. Who wants it? But that division made $500 million. But when it in profit, but when it's related to and just to give that perspective, when IBM sold their PC division to Lenovo, Lenovo is now making $100 million in profit. around that. So HP is obviously the market leader. It's 5 times the profit that Lenovo is, and but obviously they see a tide changing. But one of the most surprising things was the complete and utter abandonment of the HP TouchPad, and you know, what I could only characterize as the abandonment of the WebOS, although they say they want to continue it, but without the hardware component. This was, when it comes to mobile, I think that the touchpad was touted as the only real true competitor, sorry Rim, to the iPad. You know, mano a mano. And so it was pretty surprising that after 4 months and all those celebrity endorsements and the ads and that massive campaign, that they just said, screw it. It's not seeing the you know, we can't undo the 18-month lead that Apple has in 4 months. Bye. So this was a big deal, wasn't it? And then they sold it for $99. So let's talk about this. What the heck?
Yeah,
I don't think anybody saw this coming.
I agree. I think it was quite a shock to everybody that HP would just abandon it after doing so much work on the OS itself and the hardware, although I think probably the OS work was more intense than the hardware work itself. Building hardware, there's 50 companies that can build hardware that's decent out there. So I think it more the amount they invested into the operating system and into the user experience of that product, only to put it out there, see some mediocre sales, which everybody would have predicted that was going to happen anyways, because every tablet, aside from the iPad, hasn't been selling like hotcakes off the shelves. And so the decision was, I think, more of an excuse, really, that they could use the fact that it was selling low to say, okay, this is our excuse to be able to say, we don't really want to be in this business now. We've changed CEOs, we've changed direction, so we want to get out of it. But the most interesting part about the whole thing has nothing to do with what HP's decision was to cancel it or not. I couldn't care less whether they wanted to cancel it or keep it on or what they want to do with the IP. I think the most illustrative thing on this whole fiasco was that when they dropped the price to a price point that consumers decided was a reasonable price point, that thing sold like crazy. It wasn't because people said, oh, it's not an iPad, I don't want it. It's people saying the price is too high. But when the price was something where they could say, you know what, yeah, I can get functionality out of this this device for $99. Yeah, it meets my needs. They went out and bought it like you couldn't get it. Like as soon as they was on sale, and that weekend they were all gone. They were selling on eBay for double what the sale price was, which is still under what the retail price was.
There were lineups.
Yeah.
Overnight lineups.
Yeah. The iPad effect happened with the touchpad, but the price point was $99 and $149.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I mean, would we have predicted that? Sure. We've said for a long time that price is the way you compete against the market leader, the iPad. If you're not the iPad, what you do is you compete on price. And it's not a model that's foreign in different industries. Sony, Microsoft, when they launch game consoles, they lose buttloads of money on every console. Like they lose way more than HP lost. HP lost $206 per tablet.
Yeah.
Sony would have loved to have only lost $206 per PS3 when they launched that product on the market.
But let's explain that. So, I mean, the idea about losing, and I don't think we need to, the people who listen and watch this are educated and understand this industry probably better than we do. But the idea that to some, that HP would lose $200 a device, it's short-sighted, because what you gain in the ecosystem and the distribution and the install base now allows you, it's like Windows. Like Windows, give it away for free on the desktop ultimately. Absorb it by like an OEM deal with the hardware manufacturers, so that the consumer doesn't really have to pay for it, really. But then now you have an eager and waiting install base to go and start to build it out. Music services, app stores, service layers, everything that you can do, you build that ecosystem on top of an install base. That's why the iPad owns this market. It's, somebody, I think it was Amber MacArthur. She threw a Twitter post up this week that said, let's talk about. They're talking about on her video podcast Command N. They're talking about the tablet wars. My response to that is like the tablet wars between iPad 1 and iPad 2. Right? That's what's going on right now. There's no tablet war here, but the opportunity to get involved in that, to get an install base, is what HP really demonstrated here at $99. I don't think it's sustainable. But if you get to number 2 by doing this, you now have a revenue opportunity. Then you can actually start to build. Then developers will jump on board for WebOS, and then you'll start to see things start to accelerate. Don't you think?
Yeah, but I don't think. Like I I disagree with the opinion that the tablet market right now is a war between iPad 1 and iPad 2. There is a tablet market out there. Right now, Apple is the only tablet that at the price point it's at, people see the value at. It doesn't mean there isn't market for another one. HP proved that. There's a market for a $99 tablet that has all this functionality in it. The difference is Apple has a benefit of being Apple and being the iPad. And people will pay the $300 extra for the iPad. Somebody else, in order to break that, they can't charge $400 or $500 for their tablet because they are not Apple, they're not an iPad. What you have to do is exactly what Microsoft and Sony did, is say, in order to get software on here, you have to go through us. Therefore, we're making money every time there's software that's going on it. We're building up a developer community. You have to pay for kits. They make tons of money on the ecosystem that's there. Apple makes money on their ecosystem, but they still make so much money on their tablets, they're not dropping the price because people are willing to pay for that ecosystem. But if somebody else recreates an ecosystem like that, which is not cheap to do, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you can whip this up in 6 months, but companies have had years to try and replicate this ecosystem now, and they still haven't built something that just mirrors it. They haven't even gone out and said, we'll just build exactly what's there, and they'll build upon it. They try and do weird, different stuff that isn't appealing to customers, because customers have said, iTunes experience is what we want. If you build that for me, I will spend money on your tablet, because there will be content there. If you have tablets in the market, developers will make content for it. Look at Android. When it came out, everyone said you can't make money on Android. Now everybody wants to do Android because they got millions and millions of devices out there, and even though per device you make less money, overall you can make money on it now because you have a high install base.
Yeah, you know, a couple of points there is that I think the advantage that Apple has here with the iPad, there's two distinct advantages. One of them, they were first to market, so they set a base price of whatever it was, $499 for the low end, up to $799 I think, or $749 for the high end. They were first to market. They established the price very clearly. They own that. And they leveraged the Apple brand obviously to extent. We all know this. But then what happened was that they also leveraged the install base of the iPhone iOS development base, right? And they said they positioned it fairly well. It said, look, you know what? It's just 2x, 2x your app, and you're good to go. So there wasn't a lot of fragmentation. A lot of developers, don't get me wrong, they had to redevelop, redesign, and there was a cost associated with. But initially, you've got an install base of iOS developers, which was unbelievable to begin with. So you got first to market, set the price, you got an install base of developers, you've got an ecosystem, you've got a deep understanding of how this entire ecosystem works, from downloading an app, buying an app, installing an app, updating an app. Everybody knew that, and there was a natural transition over there. The second thing, now that what people are competing with is exactly what you say, is that the advantage that Apple has, and the reason they can charge $499, whether it's their brand or not, they've got 300 or 100 million iPad apps out there and a massive developer adoption. And that's the key here, is that's why they can charge $499. It's a premium service right now. And until somebody else can compete against this, they'll be able to charge $499 infinitely, because there's nobody out there that's going to do this. So you're right. That HP, that RIM, build that experience, but it's a chicken and the egg thing here. You've got to get these installed. And the feedback that I've heard about the WebOS and the HP is that I bought it because it's like at a price like that, it's a no-brainer. It's a toss away. It's basically a $99 portable web browser right now. And the experience hasn't been great, but if there's support, if somebody's going to own that operating system, they've got an install base now that they can actually do things with, and that's where the opportunities are. And I think that this is where HP is bumbling this, is that be very clear about this. You're getting rid of the hardware, but not the OS, and you want to develop it and you want to push it out, but it doesn't give anybody any confidence when you're a developer. But my mother has an iPhone. Right? She's 69. She has an iPhone. And I think that she said she was downloading all the free apps. She said, I'm never going to buy anything. And we took a drive yesterday. And she said, oh, look, I just bought this Pete Seeger album from iTunes. I'm like, that's the thing. It's that easy. Yeah. Right? And once you convert somebody who says, I'm never going to buy anything into a buyer, and she said it was only $5. I'm like, well, hooked. That's what they've got to build. So
yeah, it's funny. I mean, I've said this for a while, that any company that's willing to lose money on their hardware for let's say 24 months. Okay.
Yep.
If you're willing to lose hardware, and I don't mean lose like $5 or $10 on your hardware. I mean like lose $150+ on your hardware. You can be competitive with Apple. You can sell tons and tons of tablets to have the market share, and developers will come.
Yep.
If RIM had shipped 2 million playbooks out there, you'd have QNX developers up the yin-yang. You'd have them all over the place building stuff for it. But when they ship 500,000 and don't release sales numbers in that period of time, you have people questioning whether or not it can sell. But if they lost, I don't know, $200 million on the playbook hardware itself, but got their install base up so that developers were jumping on board, it would be a success story long term. In the short term, you'd lose. In the long term, you're going to have success because you'd secure yourself second place. You'd secure the fact that all developers would port their stuff. Whenever they build it on the iPad, they'd port it over to the playbook. And you have all the same content that was there, and then you build up the services, and you start monetizing, and you just start rolling in the money.
Well, I think that, I mean, I think we both agree with this, is that, you know, I'm still a little bit skeptical that there is a tablet market yet, because there's still just one clear dominant winner. And, you know, I think it's time for companies to start to innovate, to try to figure out how to compete with Apple. And as you said, I don't even know if it's about competing. I think it's just about, right now, emulating. You know, just look at what Apple's doing and do something similar, because that's what people want, right? And maybe it's just too simple. You know, maybe there's things that we don't see, but you know, big news from HP. You know, dropping everything, including the touchpad, 4 months. So I can't. I wish I had that kind of. But you know what? One of the things, like from a business perspective, that I look at, and I've talked quite a bit about this, is that they made a decision, and boy, like there was the decision was very clear. It's like, look, you know, we're no longer. It's not wishy-washy. We're no longer in the hardware business, and so I applaud them on that. We'll see how this pans out for them. And then I just read an article on TechCrunch that's saying that, you know, Best Buy is ordering, you know, all the ones that they ship back, they're trying to bring back. There's a pent-up demand. It's driving up prices. And if this is was a strategy of HP, I applaud them. I mean, this is what somebody needs to create the buzz, right?
Well, it'd be interesting to see, like, after doing this, after saying you're going to have a fire sale and get rid of them all at $99, and you're losing $206 a tablet, if then you said, oh, well, based on the demand, we're going to produce another 500,000. We're going to sell them at $149.
Yeah.
You know, would people then start buying them at $149? And suddenly you haven't bottomed out your price. You've moved it up a bit, but now you've sold another batch. And suddenly you've got, you know, 1 million of them in the market. And then you produce another 500,000 and you sell at the same price point. You're like, hey, developers, you know what? We are the second tablet now. Yeah. We suddenly got into the second place in the tablet market over the course of, you know, 6, 7, 8 months. And, you know, why don't you build for us?
Well, I think I'd love to say that was their strategy, but I just don't. I just don't know. I mean, like, I think they quit it and then they went, oh shit, look at all this demand, right? So a good company would take an opportunity like this and capitalize on it. So that's all we're saying. It's like I'd like rescind the deal. We were just joking. Right? Oh man. Well, so HP and the touchpad fiasco, we're going to follow this, obviously, because this is going to be something that's going to have a material impact on the mobile space for quite some time, and the fallout from this. And, you know, I think that it's just an interesting piece, because some big decisions were made last week, and this was obviously one of them, and the impact has been very interesting to watch. I do want to take a minute here to thank another one of our sponsors. This time it's Appcelerator, and I know that you guys are out there developing apps. Appcelerator's platform, Titanium, allows you to develop across all platforms. It's not only mobile in all the operating systems in mobile, Android, iOS, and BlackBerry. It's iPad, and it's it's tablets, but it's also desktop, which is a really cool thing. And I interviewed Six Wunderkinder on Untether.tv, and they built an application called Wunderlist, and it's Wunder, W-U-N-D, Wunderlist, and it's a German company, obviously, and these guys did it so well. You know, basically, I think it's the application is available on 20 languages. This is the power of Appcelerator. 20 languages, all mobile operating system platforms, all desktop platforms, and they built this using Appcelerator. And this is one of those things that I don't think that they could have done this quickly with any other platform. They're having a conference September 18th to 20th in San Francisco. It is the Mobile Dev Conference. In fact, the fake Steve Jobs is keynoting. You know, the timing is impeccable. But it's 18th to 20th at the Intercontinental Hotel in San Francisco. For those of you who are listening right now, there's a pre-registration 2-for-1 sale that ends August 31st. So you can get 2 tickets for the price of 1. So go to codestrong.com. There's a whole bunch of other initiatives that they're doing at the time, but we love the fact that Appcelerator has been an incredible sponsor of this podcast and on Tether.tv, and we thank them so much for doing this, and we'd appreciate it if you guys could support them. Hit up their site at codestrong.com or appcelerator.com and take a look at what they're doing at the conference, or just in general if you haven't heard of them. Go and play with their software and let us know. We'd love to hear from you. That is Appcelerator, appcelerator.com. Back to our regular scheduled show. Second story that we wanted to cover very quickly was this Foursquare Facebook fight that's going on. I know there's a little bit of background, and I'm pretty sure you guys know all of this. But the thing with Foursquare is that, or Facebook, is that Facebook got out of Places, right? And this was the big thing, that this is their check-in service. And after another, I think it was 4 months. I don't know what it is with 4 months. They backed out and said, listen, hey, we're done with the check-in. We're going to put a pervasive layer of location across all of our applications. We're just going to tag everything with your permission, of course. And I think there was much more of a sway towards Foursquare saying, when Facebook got into Places, they said, oh, it's a Foursquare killer. And then now Facebook is getting out of Places in the check-in economy. And everybody's like, yeah, Foursquare won, defeated the giant, Goliath, David, all that garbage. And you and I are of the drastically different opinion from that. We agree that this ain't no win for Foursquare, man. This isn't Foursquare winning, is it?
No, I don't think it's Foursquare winning at all. I think that you really have to look at the context of why Facebook got out of Places. Facebook didn't get out of Places because they said no one likes location. Facebook got out of Places because of something that you and I have been talking about for a while, which is that the manual effort of clicking a check-in button on 16 different services is too much for people. People maybe are willing to check in one spot, and Foursquare has taken advantage of that by being the #1 spot for that to happen. But to check into a whole bunch of different places, people just don't do it. They're not going to sit there and load up app after app after app and click a check-in button. What Facebook realized is that if people are checking in so much, really they just want their location known. And if they're going to post a status message when they check in, well, they post a status message on Facebook anyways. So let's just attach the status or the location to their status message seamlessly. Then you don't have to click a check-in button. You just go about your daily business. You post on Facebook and your location's there, or you take a picture and your location's attached to it. Obviously with the right privacy protections put in place, but they're basically making location so you don't have to think about location. You just have to think, do I want to share my location or do I not? Not where do I want to share it, just do I want to share it? And then use that and get the context from it.
Yeah, and this is, I've labeled this, and maybe I'm probably not the first one, but this is location as dial tone. It's the same way where you pick up your phone or you pick up a line most of the time. And you get a dial tone and an ability to call in. I think that this is that pervasive layer, that this is that next step up. So, it's a service of everything else. And I think that's the thing that people are missing here, is that it's Facebook basically saying, as you said, well, this is a dead industry. Checking in is not relevant anymore. Location is very relevant. How do we bring location into everything that we do? And again, their privacy, that's their issues, but this I applaud this as a way, and what I hope this avoids is people just, they do it in a way that is subtle enough so that people stop checking in at Esso stations and gas stations and bathrooms and garbage like this, or at the intersection of this street and this street, or in this city. Like, who cares that you're getting gas, man? But if you check in at a gas station and it tells me that it somehow posts the price of the gas at that point, if it's relevant or if it's cheaper than anywhere else, then it becomes a relevant check-in to me. But gathering that data, important. Publicizing it the way it's being done with Foursquare, not so important, right?
Yeah, I discovered this week that if you check into the bathroom at the Bithead's office, it's actually classified as a boat. So you unlock the boat badge in Foursquare if you do so. So, I don't know why. I had two options where I went to check in, and one was the bathroom, one was the regular office. I'm like, oh, I've never checked into the bathroom before. Let's try that. But the benefit of what Facebook is doing is that instead of me checking into the bathroom or checking into to work, is that all I'm doing is I'm putting context on the post. So normally when I check into Facebook, and as I see most of my friends do, they just check in. All I do is I hit the check-in button, pops up a little screen, check in again. That's all I do. It's like click, 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 click.
Yep.
So there's no context to that. All it does is say where you are, not what you're doing.
Right.
And so what Facebook is saying is post whatever you're going to post. Like, oh, I'm watching a movie right now, and your location will be set, or I'm watching, Terminator, or I'm watching, Transformers or something. So instead of just saying you're at the movie theater, what you're saying is I'm at the movie theater watching Transformers.
Right. Yeah.
So that somebody else who's at the movie theater who might be watching Transformers knows that you're there, not just that somewhere in these 16 mega screens of the theater, you're there as well. Big deal. Yeah. What are you doing there? And maybe I'm doing the same thing, right? So I think that is the contextual side of location that has been missing, and that it hasn't been forced to have people give a reason or a thing with a check-in. It's just a location and not any context to it, where what Facebook is doing, which is totally the right thing, is making sure that when you're adding location to something, you're adding location to something with context.
Yep.
So that then Facebook or your Facebook applications or whomever can use that information to target things to that person better, whether that's targeting other relevant posts, whether it's targeting other relevant people that might be around, whether it's targeting relevant advertising to go with that. All that targeting is really what's important, and you need the context of what you're doing to target the right things to the right people, not just to know that they're in Ottawa. Big deal.
And Foursquare is moving away from this. I mean, we've seen a slew of announcements around this. Like, for example, like Gowalla got out of the check-in business a long time ago. They got into a kind of a purveyor of travel information. They wanted it to become your discovery engine where you were. They just announced that they're even getting out of their virtual goods side and their geotagging of notes. Foursquare even launched this service that allowed to check into events now, not just venues but events. So you're not checking into Madison Square Garden. You're checking into the Springsteen concert that's at Madison Square Garden, so that it's contextualizing that data as well. And they did the photos, they did notes, they did suggestions, they've done coupons, and they've tag teamed with Groupon and Living Social and all these other ridiculous businesses around this to create one big ridiculous business, I think. I'm critical of it because there's not a lot of innovation here, and it's now all of a sudden the kitchen sink is in there, and it's just too much. It's too much. And what location allows you to do is what Facebook is. They're taking the different approach, is that let's not confuse anybody. Let's just put it in our terms and conditions. We're gonna allow you to turn this off, I hope, because they haven't rolled it out yet. But just tag everything, contextualize that post with that place at that time, and that photo. I mean, they've already been doing that for a long time, obviously, with metadata and photos for location. Just go to your iPhone right now. And instead of looking at it as a list, look at it as a location and expand it, and you'll see where you've taken all your photos from. So they're already tagging this information. Apple's doing it. So now the question is, what do you do with that data? And that's the more important question than actually checking in. Right? So I don't know. I think that this opens up a whole realm of opportunity where now Facebook, with 700 million people, isn't going to crush Foursquare because it's not worth their efforts to crush Foursquare right now. Right?
Yeah, and it's interesting to see that there's another company that was doing the same thing with location. That's Twitter, right? Yeah. If you turn Twitter on, turn location on Twitter, and it just kind of attaches to your post. Yep. And I think Facebook is taking the best of Twitter in terms of saying, okay, it's just part of what you're posting, but also the part of Foursquare in which when you actually do put information, it probably is contextual. Because if I am putting a note on a check-in on Foursquare, yep, there is some context to it if I'm going to take the opportunity to write it. Where on Twitter, so much stuff on Twitter is non-contextual. It's just news stories, it's auto posts, it's not the same stuff that people post on Facebook. So Facebook is taking advantage of the personal standpoint of what Facebook is for people, and the ubiquitous location feature that Twitter has put on, combined them together and said, yeah, now we've got what everybody really wants, which is just a ubiquitous location on top of the context, and not Foursquare, and not Twitter, and not some of these other services.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, this is going to be interesting how this plays out. I'm looking for a response from Foursquare. And you know, I'm not down on these companies. I think that these guys are, you know, taking Facebook out but I'm not down on guys like Foursquare. I think that the end is near for Goala. I don't know what they're doing, but with Foursquare they have a huge opportunity. They have a good install base, and I think that it becomes. Are they curators, or what is this business that they're in? Is it an ad-based business? Can it sustain itself? I mean, those are the questions that they should be asking themselves. And I think that what Facebook did here is, it's not a win-lose here. Facebook just looked at it and said, it's not worth it, right? I don't know why we got into that business to begin with, the check-in, physical check-in business, because they only have 10 or 11 million users. We have 700 million. The accumulated data net value of what Facebook can bring is infinitely larger than what little Foursquare can do. And with all the activity on Facebook, I mean, the data that they're collecting is already there, and it's what you do with that data, how you crunch that data, how you push relevant information to somebody while they're standing in a relevant place in the background without effort, and that's where Facebook really can shine here. So I don't think that this is a matter of you know, David beating Goliath. It's more like Goliath thinking, why would we stoop so low? Why would we get down at that level when we have the ability to just make this a stream dial tone?
Yeah, you know, Foursquare, the way Foursquare should compete with this is that me checking into a location on Foursquare has little value because there's never relevant tips left by people. Like, very rarely is there relevant tips left by people wherever I'm checking in. And I don't generally leave very relevant tips either, because I just hit the check-in button twice, and there's no real extra benefit points-wise or whatever for me to add a tip. So, and there's no way for me to say which tips are good and which tips are bad. So,
and they're all old, predominantly.
Sorry?
They're all like 7 months old.
Yeah, so if Foursquare could change the way that they encourage people to check in to add relevant information so that when I checked in somewhere, I was confident that I'm likely to get some tip that's either timely, and that it's happened recently, or relevant, and that there's some reason that I want this tip, right? Not like, oh, there's free candy there, I'm standing in front of the free candy, which happens to be the tip that I left at BitHeads. But anyways, that, like, adding that to it could add the point where, yeah, they're not going to grow to 700 million people, but if they added some of that contextual reason for people to leave good tips, so that there were good tips, which would encourage people to check in even just to get the good tips that were there, or photos, or whatever it happens to be, I think that would make the service a lot more useful.
Yeah, and the last note on this is that you got to remember that a lot of people who are using Foursquare, you know, have tied it to their Facebook account anyway. So the data that they're exchanging between Foursquare and Facebook is also going to be contextually relevant for Facebook, right? So any location that you check in Foursquare and you push it to your Facebook, you know, thread or whatever it is, now all of a sudden offers Facebook a contextualized advertising opportunity, right? So it's and relevant push information. So I check into a location, it ends up in my stream in Facebook. Facebook can then push out a stream, like a coupon or whatever it is that they're going to do with this. So it's you know, everybody's contributing to Facebook's success here, I think. So Facebook just realized that, okay, we're gonna focus on that layer that's really important on a macro level. So Foursquare, Facebook, David versus Goliath. Not a real battle there, I don't think. If you have any comments on this, let us know. I mean, if you're adamant against this one way or another, we'd love to have it. We'll publish some of the feedback that we get at the next episode. Take a little break here and thank Pontiflex App Leads. I know that you guys have heard of these guys. I'm a big supporter of mobile application developers, independent developers. I know that Jeff is as well. And when it comes to making money, it's very important for these guys to make some money. It's very important for us to all share in the wealth so that these guys can actually go out and generate more applications, you know, more choice, which is great. Ecosystem, baby, ecosystem, and that's what these guys allow you to do. Pontiflex App Leads is has a high CPM. It's really easy to install into your application. It's contextualized ads that don't take people out of the application. They don't, you know, click on it and go to a browser. It stays within it. These are sign-up ads, so it's much deeper engagement, higher CPMs. Some of these companies are just making a lot of money off of these, 100 times the traditional eCPM. And there's a great interview that I did with an auto-tune app. Just go onto untether.tv and it's Tune Me. And these guys just jumped up in revenue as a result of using Pontiflex App Leads. And I implore you to do this. Go out and take a look. Top brands are advertising with App Leads. And it's a good way for you guys who are out there trying to make some dollars. You don't need millions of downloads. You need a couple of downloads to start generating revenue from your application with this kind of advertising with sign-up ads. It also helps you build your mailing list, your emailing list for the next app that you launch. So this is not just a one-time thing. You're building a mailing list every app that you launch, so that you can leverage that mailing list in order to be able to announce your next app. And this is just part of smart marketing, smart kind of bootstrapping marketing. And that's why I love Appleads. And we love them that they're supporting two guys on mobile. And go to appleads.com for more information and sign up. Pretty quick, pretty painless, easy to install, easy to get going. Just go and do it and start making some money for your apps. Please. Please. All right, if you can believe it. Last story here. I'm hoping this is less than an hour story that we're about to talk about, because usually when we talk about RIM, it's a lot of head shaking and a lot of cursing and a lot of back and forth. But and I think that's what the industry was kind of doing with this. And when they announced this past week, that they are launching a BBM-based music service for $5 a month. Jeff, what are your thoughts on this, man?
I can always tell when you bring up a story that you're like shaking your head at. You're like, I don't even know how to introduce this. But I mean, when I first read about it, I thought it was kind of interesting. I mean, it's tying together RIM's most popular service, BBM, with something that lots of people like to do. Obviously, is listen to music and share music. Yeah. Yeah. So it seems like kind of a match made together. And when you actually look at the service, I actually think it's quite an interesting service. Like the way they have stuff tied together and the way you're socially sharing stuff, it's quite nice. Nothing else out there like it right now. It is very much a social music sharing service. Yep. And independent of anything else going on, I think it's a really good idea, and I think it's something that people could latch on to. However, I think that it's one of those ideas where it's like, oh, let's do something really cool, but yet not have the base of functionality that everybody wants, not just the people who are into social music. So as soon as they announced BBM Music, I said, oh, great. It's a music store that you can buy music on BlackBerry. Finally, this is what they've been needing for years. Yeah. It's like, no. It ties into Amazon's music store, but they don't have a store behind it. I'm like, wait. So you spend a whole bunch of time building a music sharing service and don't have a store where people can actually buy music that their friends are listening to, or they can't go into their service. I don't really understand this that point. Like, how do you make the leap to say we should do this thing that's really innovative and not have the base technology that everybody wants, not just some people want? My first inclination for this is that so for those of you who are not BlackBerry people and you haven't looked at this service and you think, okay, well, what is it? It's a $5 a month subscription it's a social music service ultimately, and you get for $5 a month you basically get to tag or own or stream 50 songs. You choose your 50 songs. And every month you can swap out 25 songs and bring 25 new songs in. So it seems limiting when you think about it like an RDO or a Pandora, something like that, because it's not that. The kicker here is that all of your BBM friends who subscribe to the service also get those 50 songs, and then you guys as a community, all your friends who are listed in your BBM community, now you can listen to all of their songs. You get to share in all of their songs. So it becomes a pretty massive music collection. Right, so that's what this is. But the knock is that they're comparing it against, exactly as you said, right? This is a buying or a sharing or an RDO or a Pandora type of service, but it's not. It's something completely unique and different. And in the context that I've just described the product in, I think this is what RIM needs to do. They have to start coming up with these services. They have to start throwing things against the wall, seeing what sticks. But they have to get their marketing right. Because I think that this is a big opportunity for RIM because of things like turntable.fm and music discovery applications that are out there on the web, which I think is a neat idea, but maybe not for the web. You need a mobile component. So if they pitched this, what I don't even know what they call this. BBM Music?
BBM Music. It's like calling the bowl the 9900, right? It's time to come up with... Anyway, so BBM Music, if they pitch this as the turntable FM, the turntable.fm mobile equivalent, where it's a music discovery engine. So it's not about 50 songs for you. It's about, you know, if you have 100 friends or 1,000 friends, that's 50,000 songs. And as we were talking about before, I mean, Jeff said that I'm no use to him as a Springsteen fan because I would have all 50 songs. But if you took my Springsteen channel and you took, you know, Jeff's Madonna channel, right, and or a Black Eyed Peas channel, and then you took all of people who are in that ecosystem, you've got a massive music discovery engine, and you just hit random play, go on your mobile phone. I think that this could be very powerful for music discovery, just like Turntable was. And I think that with RIM's clout, they can really have, I mean, they've already been able to do this. They can have the publishers, the music industry engaged in this for app discovery, because then you can do a one-click purchase, whatever it is that you want to do. I think the challenge that they've got is that they're charging for it.
Yeah, I mean, the reason they're charging for it is because of the music labels, right? I mean, RIM is hamstrung a bit by music labels here saying, wait, you want to give away basically as much music as someone wants to listen to for free as long as they just add friends to it? Because obviously, like, I think anybody is aware that what will happen here with BBM Music, and that the part of the problem with it is that the value of your friends isn't just that they have music. The value of your friends is they're your friend, and you want to talk to them, right? And so when you add someone to Facebook or to BBM or more of one of the personal sharing services, instant messaging clients, Skype, you're usually not adding random people that you don't care about and you don't want to talk to or be involved with.
Right.
But when you get some other benefit from doing it, not just that it's a personal social network, that when you're getting some effectively financial benefit, and that your $5 is now worth more by adding more friends, like, I should basically go out and add everybody in the world, therefore I get every song in the world. It doesn't add value to the social network for me to be connected to everybody in the social network. That's not what adds value to a social network. The value to a social network is the strength of the connections between people in there. And if you weaken all those connections so that I'm now connected to 1,000 people I don't care about anymore, the social network itself doesn't have any value. The only value it has for me is now it's a big base of music that probably if I had enough people, I'll end up with all the music I want to listen to for $5 a month. Fine. But I'd rather just pay $5 a month for a service to listen to all the music than munge up my BBM list or munge up my Facebook connection list with a whole bunch of people I don't care about. Yeah. I went through this with Facebook games. So when Facebook games came out, or not when they came out, but when I started playing them more actively, especially getting into a couple, I said, well, you know what? There's actually a lot of benefits in these games for having more friends that play them. And I didn't actually have a lot of friends that played the games. So I went onto the forums and I added Facebook people who I knew played the game so I could get up to, like, 30 people in the game and get a lot of benefit of it. But then my news feed became, like, ridiculous because I had these feeds people who I didn't care about anymore. Some of them in languages I couldn't even understand because they were posting in Chinese or Spanish or whatever, right? And so then you had to go do some work and try and filter people out here and there, but I couldn't delete them, and they didn't have. It was just like, you know what? This is way too much work. I just deleted them. Because I said, you know what, the value for Facebook for me is not that I have 1 million friends, it's that the friends and people I want to find out information about, I can do so with. So with BBM Music, to me what this is doing is this could be ruining the value of BBM. And that's what I'm most worried about BBM Music. Not that the service itself sucks or that there's not value to it or it's not worth $5 a month. It's that by adding this kind of a service, you could devalue the #1 service that RIM has that people really want.
By gumming it up, you're right. Right. This is the thing about mobile is that you don't want to abuse your users, and you have an opportunity to create or destroy brands in a second, and you got to be very careful about this. You're right, and it's got to be done in an elegant way, and RIM's not been very elegant. It has to be suave, maybe, I think, like the suave hog, right? Slick. But I think about this is that boy, oh boy, if they I mean, the whole goal here is to make sure that BBM remains sticky, because there's a competitive threat that's out there in iOS 5 that is now going to have basically BBM, iOS messaging, right? And that's between iOS devices. That's across not only the iPhone and the iPod Touch and the iPad, which is a very competitive threat against RIM's ecosystem, because they've for a long time have clung to BBM as the reason why people, teens, tweens, everybody starts using this. Business people start using secure, connected texting, free texting. So I can understand why they'd want to do this. I definitely can understand why they want to do this. I just think that if they did this for free and they positioned it as a music discovery engine, so find out what your friends are listening to, it might be a better way to say around, to sell this and to keep people using BBM. And that's the whole goal here. It's you got to have something that they can cling to that's unique. Now that it's not going to be unique come the fall with iOS 5 release, what do you do? And this isn't. I don't think this is a bad idea. It's just poorly executed, and that's what RIM's challenge is execution. Right.
And what you say there is right. Is that it could be a very valuable music discovery service, but the only value to having a music discovery service is if you can make money off people discovering the music.
Yeah.
And so if this was set up on top of iTunes, it's great because anytime you want to add stuff, you can go buy the songs from iTunes. But RIM doesn't have that in place. RIM doesn't have this thing where they can tell their music labels, hey, the reason why we want to give this away for free is, look over here. Look at how much money we're making you selling music. If we add this service here, which is going to be free, this will go up. Therefore, you will get more money.
Yeah.
But they can't do that because they don't have this revenue in place. So music labels are saying, legitimately, why am I going to give you all this stuff for free when we sell it everywhere else and you're not selling our stuff for us? You're not being a retailer for our music. So why are we giving it to you for free? And I totally get that, and I totally support them on that.
Yeah, and I think that that's why RIM should pay the $5. If you're a BBM user, you sign up for this service, RIM should eat this because the long-term benefit of keeping people on BBM means that they're keeping them on the platform, that there's another opportunity to roll out services.
There's better ways of eating revenue than this $5 music sharing service. If RIM's going to eat revenue on the customer like that and take that hit of long-term subscription-based revenue that they're going to take the hit on, not because they're not making the $5, well, there's a little bit of that, but also because they're making $5 less per month per user.
Yeah.
Like, that's big because if RIM was to eat it, they basically have to eat it $5 times every single user every month. So you can't do that. You can't eat that hit.
But Jeff, you got to think about. There's a great quote here by Manish Vaidya. Sorry, Manish. Who is a comment on TechCrunch. He says, "We now have music on the main deck." Announcement from the Titanic crew. Right. That's pretty funny. But that's the perception that RIM is faltering here. So the cost of $5 per user to keep that user as a BlackBerry user versus get them to swap. I'd make that bet every time because long term, that $5 per month guarantees for as long as they're going to stay on that they remain a BlackBerry user, and I think that's what's that?
That costs you $300 million a month.
Yeah, but not everybody's going to sign up.
It doesn't matter. If it's free, they give it to everybody, and basically everybody signs up. So you have to look at to say if it's free and you're promoting it well, you should assume that you're going to get close to 100% penetration of BB users using this service. And they have had success getting uptake on BBM clients and everything like that. So there's no reason to think a free service wouldn't be adopted by the majority of their clients. If they've got 60 million BBM users, which was the case a few months ago, times $5 a month, $300 million a month, you can't eat $3.6 billion a year. You can't do it. You can't. There's better ways to spend that $3.6 billion on BlackBerry than there is to eat $5 a month in this music service.
That's right. They could almost in 3 years they could buy Motorola.
Yeah.
Well, whatever this is, I think that there's a good opportunity for RIM to, whether this is the service or not, RIM has to start thinking like a nimble company and releasing these services. But, I think there's a lot of head scratching around this, what this means. But if you look at it as an app or as a music discovery system, you need a massive number of people in there. So it can't be like you and 3 of your friends paying the $5 a month. There has to be something, right? Because as you said, you'll get, basically if I had 3 friends on BBM music sharing like this and it was app discovery, I'd get multiple versions of Born to Run. And that would be it, right? There's no value to that. So somewhere between, you've got to be able to give this out for free to get everybody involved, and you've got to be able to make some money or not lose money on it. This is a steep battle, and hopefully they're thinking about this.
Be like, there's a free and a paid level, and free you have 1 song or 3 songs or some really low number, right? Because if we're going to say everybody's going to add everybody to BBM anyways and reduce the value there, at least you could get all the people signed up for it to try it out with one song or whatever for free. And so with 100 friends, you'd have 100 songs, and you're probably not coordinating exactly with your 100 friends who likes what, because they're going to have a different list of friends. You can't quite coordinate so you get every song. You're going to get a whole bunch of duplicates on there. And so that's how you would kind of whet people's appetite for it and then try and upsell them to a charged version of it. But of course, you don't solve the problem of diluting the value of your BBM network by doing that, because it's almost worse in that sense, because now it's not just paid people who you're diluting the value for, it's everybody.
It becomes spam and noise, and again, you know, every user, every person that's paying you for a service, everybody who's watching a podcast like this is a sacred resource, right? And you have to treat it like that. You can't just slam them with stuff. Yeah, but there's got to be some value here. There has to be.
That's a great idea. We both agree. The idea is great.
Execution.
It just needs, it's just like it needs something. There needs to be some other stuff around it to make it really a supporting piece. It's a great supporting piece
to something. It's not a focus, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
So to your point, Jeff, Rim, I know you watch this. I know some of you guys are watching this. What you have to do is build iTunes. Build a revenue piece underneath this, right? Don't rely on this for the revenue. We'll credit Jeff Bacon for that. 3 stories. Three stories, 3 sponsors. HP and the TouchPad. We're going to be watching this very clearly, obviously, what's going on with those guys. Foursquare and Facebook. What is this? HP and TouchPad. Foursquare and Facebook. David versus Goliath. The battle, it was a pretty lame battle. And Rim's BBM Music. We're going to see how this goes. Enthusiastic about the innovation. We're stunned that this has happened over the last couple of weeks, all these announcements. We didn't even touch on Steve Jobs and resigning from CEO, but I think that's been touched on quite a bit. And there's nothing much more to say about that other than he's resigned and Apple will continue. But those are the big 3 that we think over the last couple of weeks that we've missed, and the impact of what's going to happen on those. It's something that is going to be, we're going to be continuously watching. I think this is what we want to do here, is bring some thought-provoking comments around some of the stories that are as relevant to you as us in the mobile industry. So let us know what you think. Untether@gmail.com. You can reach out to Jeff, obviously, where he's posted this on his blog. At bacononthego.com, and let us know what you think. We love hearing feedback from you guys through Twitter, through email, through Facebook, whatever it is. Just let us know. Agree, disagree? Are we BSing you here, or are we actually telling you, offering some value, some insight from some of the stories that are relevant? I think that's it, Jeff. Our silver anniversary.
I hope the next 2 weeks have a few less major stories than the past 2 weeks.
Well, I think that catastrophic. I think New York and everybody on the East Coast will be drying out for a little while, and but I don't think that. I think that's going to accelerate. There's going to be a lot more acquisitions, a lot more consolidation, a lot more of this stuff happening because I think business models are starting to formulate in the mobile space, and companies are going to get big, but they're going to require a lot of these services that they're purchasing. In order to be able to get to that size, and I think that's what we're going to see starting, almost immediately. This has not been a quiet summer.
No.
All right, you can find Jeff at bacononthego.com or at the Suave Hog on the Twitter. You can come and visit untether.tv anytime you want. There's 300 plus interviews with mobile experts teaching you how to run and operate and build a mobile business. And every week there's 2 more added, plus a couple of new podcasts, a little bit of insight. And really appreciate some feedback if you got some. But until then, we'll be back at some point over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully next week for episode number 26 of 2 Guys on Mobile. Until then, we appreciate you watching. Thank you guys so much, and enjoy the week. Jeff, see you later, man.
See ya.